Good morning once again. My name is Paulus Gerald Muse Venzai, aka Baba Abuada Bwidi, the Ghetto Traveler. And today I do have brought to you an issue which is very important. Before we delve into this issue, please can you go subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube channel, my Facebook page and our Facebook page, Say Paulus, and also you can find us on Facebook as Gutapa Media INC. Thanking the crew behind the scene, Director Tak, Ronald Muvirimi, and Vicky. Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another segment of news. Today we are digging deeper and diving into the issue which have been raised by the journalist and the filmmaker Hopewell Chingono. So Hopewell Chingono have raised this issue, and it have taken my interest to further investigate into the possibilities of what he is saying, the dangers in the issues which he is talking of. And now I want to go on his Facebook page, Hopewell Chingono, a post which he did 20 hours ago, which is yesterday. So now you can see that he wrote, while the fight for freedom continues in Zimbabwe, it is now important to establish a government in exile will challenge Mnangagwa's illegitimate and corrupt regime internationally. Mnangagwa's repressive crackdown on pro-democracy activists is intended to protect his loot and the criminal network that benefits from access to public funds. The regime and its supporters must now be isolated internationally, targeting known bank accounts and investigating additional ones that remain undiscovered, and more importantly, targeting private properties bought with the looted funds. With the international community taking notice and condemning ZANU-PF's corrupt rule and repression, there will be increased support for the establishment of a government in exile to represent the interests of the Zimbabwean people on the global stage. Elections will never work. Appeasement will never work. The struggle must now be stepped up. Mnangagwa and his regime must go for Zimbabwe to prosper. A list should be produced with all the local companies that are benefiting from Mnangagwa's corrupt rule for citizens to boycott them. All the international companies that do business with Mnangagwa must be boycotted and exposed in their countries of origin. The terrain for this struggle must now change. We will remember those who help us when we attain our freedom. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the issues being raised by Hopewell Chingono on the current political struggles which are facing the Zimbabwe opposition people. Now we can see that there are more than 100 people, activists, who have been arrested whilst they were conducting their gatherings, and whilst some of them were demanding the release of the Jameson Timber and the 78 others who were arrested whilst they were celebrating the Day of the African Girl Child. So now, let us dive deeper into the issue which is at hand here. The first thing is to determine whether His Excellency Comrade Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa is the illegitimate leader of Zimbabwe. That question is something which is debatable, and at the current stage it's very difficult to determine whether he is the illegitimate or he is the legitimate. Now, but let me give you this scenario. We do have SADC, which came to observe elections, and SADC produced a report. After the report which was produced by SADC, we can see that the inauguration of the president continued as if nothing had happened. Now, if I go further into that report, I can see that that report was or has no ability to stop the results of the elections being announced. Why am I saying so? These missions which are done by SADC have also been done before, like the Namibian one and the Mozambican one. We can see that even Zimbabwe was involved. And now, after the observations which were made there, can we say that the Namibian and also the Mozambican presidents, they were saying they are illegitimate? That's food for thought for you. Then the next thing is, after the inauguration, now the president who was inaugurated, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, continued to stand in on all international platforms as the president of Zimbabwe. Now, will you tell me that if the international community had said that he is not legitimate, then he would continue to stand as the president of Zimbabwe? That is also food for thought. So we can see that the first step here is to determine whether he is legitimate or he is illegitimate. Now, the decision of legitimacy doesn't only fall on the Zimbabweans, because last time we can see that Advocate Nelson Chamisa, through his lawyers like Tavani Mpofu and other lawyers, they challenged the legitimacy of Emmerson Mnangagwa in 2018, and the courts of the land decided that the elections were done free and fair. Therefore, he ran for the term from 2018 up to 2023, and he was re-elected through the vote again. And now the question still remains, is he a legitimate or illegitimate? I'm not the one who is supposed to answer this question. You can answer it on your own. I don't want you to say I said this or I said that. So now let's move on with our analysis. After determining that is the Mnangagwa regime legitimate, that one we saw the current election, there was no challenge to it. There was nothing to do with legitimacy. Yes, they were talking, but those who were talking, they just folded their hands. No action was taken. Therefore, this was taken as a stamp on the polls. My suggestion was that before the elections, now knowing that what we say after elections is that the elections were rigged, were we supposed to step into those elections? Because if you had seen the stance which was taken by Douglas Monzora said, no, I'm not going to get into these elections for one reason. The reason that he stated is that the elections are not going to be free and fair. But we do have a main opposition part, which was Triple C. They used all their resources and they said, now let's go into the elections, which are not free and fair. Now imagine a grown-up person waking up and say, let me go and fight, but I'm going to fight a fight which is not free and fair. So it simply means that you are ready to be defeated because you already know that this fight which I'm entering is not free and fair. Therefore, this is the scenario which we do have in Zimbabwe, whereby we said the elections for the past years, we keep on complaining the same issue. These elections are rigged. The elections are not free and fair. Then we continue to go into elections. Then now, my suggestion is that as long as the elections, we say they are not free and fair, why should we continue to go into those elections? So going into the elections which we say are free and fair is just a way to sanitize what we say is bad. Therefore, now if the Mnangagwa regime is legitimate, we made it legitimate. If it is illegitimate, we are just shouting at the legitimacy which we created as the opposition leaders. So the opposition leaders created the legitimacy of the current ruling government by consenting to enter into a race which they know that was not free and fair. I'm not saying it was not free and fair, I'm saying that the rest they purported to say was not free and fair. So now this is the other thing which will help us to determine whether the current Mnangagwa's regime is free and fair. Now, he further mentioned the repressive crackdown on pro-democracy activists. On this one, I cannot comment further, but my interest here was about the setting up of the government in exile and the possibilities of having that government in exile. Is it possible to have that government in exile? So we are looking for anyone who may be interested to be our guest in the next show, where we look into this matter in depth, the possibility of forming a government in exile. Because I want to understand the modalities, how does it work, and how does this take Zimbabwe to freedom? Because yes, currently we do have a number of people who are talking, but they are not in Zimbabwe. For example, Jonathan Moyo last time was talking. That one now we can say now he's silent. We do have the likes of Xavier Kasukuwere. We do have the likes of Walter Mzembe. There are a lot of people outside there who are too vocal for nothing. And maybe these are the people who can be targeted. Or else we can say those in Zimbabwe, they go and put themselves in exile in other countries and start fighting from those countries. I don't know, you know better than me. I'm just here putting it across for your thoughts. Then, now, he talked about isolation from the international community, targeting non-bank accounts and investigating additional ones that remains undiscovered, and more importantly, targeting private properties brought with looted funds. All right. This one sounds as a noble idea, but the repercussions are not going to fall on those who operate those businesses. The repercussions are going to fall on the ordinary citizens. So imagine myself boycotting from buying. Let's say I want to boycott from buying from INSCO. I'm not saying that INSCO is benefiting from anyone else. I'm just giving an example of me boycotting from buying from INSCO. Whereas we know that INSCO, they do have 60% of their commodities which are on the market shelves. INSCO owns everything. Now let me turn away from INSCO and just look at an ordinary shop which is owned by a businessman who is a ZANU-PF supporter, or who is a ZANU-PF what. Now suppose that I boycott from buying from those shops. Do we have alternatives? Do we have alternatives? That's my question. Do we have alternatives to say, now let's go and buy from this place? Because remember guys, in Zimbabwe, we are living from hand to mouth. The dollar which I earn today is the dollar that I'm going to spend today. And we do not have anything that is stuffed in our houses. So now imagine boycotting those businesses. Where are we going to buy? So it simply means that we will be creating a further crisis for our own people. We are going back to that scenario whereby Trangirai was calling that that scenario is created by sanction, because once we say let's isolate, we are creating more sanctions. And now if they are isolated internationally, the only thing they can do locally is to say we are not getting these things easily, let's now increase prices. Therefore we'll be creating also more crisis for the people whom we say we are fighting for. So whenever we want to think of an idea, Let us think it deeper and look at the repercussions. Yes, I'm not discouraging them of doing that. I'm just giving my own opinion and my own analysis. If you do have your own opinion or your own analysis, you can bring it here. I'm ready to listen to that one. So this is some of the issues, and this is one of the issues which I have picked up. Then also on the issue of having them isolated internationally, yes, you can manage that. But remember, there are some countries who are also benefiting from this. And also they are ready to do business with Zimbabwe. So are we going to be successful? Or is this going to help? So I think in as much as we try to use any modus operandi in trying, let us see what are the repercussions. But after all, we are still in the first year of the 5-year term. Pakaipa, let me say so. So now let's try by all means to make sure that when we are fighting our fights, we do not just think using emotions. Let's think after doing an analysis. So here I was just analyzing the Hopewell issue versus fighting the Mnangagwa government, what they are calling illegitimate. So this is me. I know some people who hate my opinions, some people who like my opinions, but nevertheless, we are all Zimbabweans. Let us fight for a better Zimbabwe. Let us make sure that we maintain peace, unity, and tranquility. Let's say no to divisive politics. Zimbabwe has now turned into a political landscape whereby we spend all the years doing politics without doing normal business. So thank you very much. This is Kutapa Media NC, news without fear, favor, and bias. We talk it as it is, and we give it an analysis. Thank you very much. Signing out, yours, Sir Paulus Gerard News, Benzai.